first thing that comes to my mind is that I love you, bro. I love you, man. I just can't believe how much I love you and care about you. I was thinking just as we were sitting down about how I've known you since first grade. Is that right? First grade, right? Or was it second?
Second grade.
But did you show up in first grade?
Well, okay. I went to the other elementary school in Alpine in first grade, and then you ended up going to that elementary school.
We switched.
But we hit second grade together.
But I feel like did your family live? Did you guys? I don't know. Can't remember.
Yeah.
But I feel like I met you.
Yes.
First grade.
We did. We lived by the cemetery.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we probably did meet in first grade, but do you know the earliest memory I have of you? I've told you this all the time.
What?
But it was Spider-Man, dude. You were talking about Spider-Man. You were like on the wall, like scaling the wall, dude. And
the Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, with Tobey Maguire, and we were jazzing out on how cool Spider-Man was gonna be.
That's awesome.
Dude. Yeah.
I just showed Esty that Spider-Man the other day.
It's great.
And I turned it off. I was like, actually, it's a little more scary than I remember.
Yeah.
She probably wasn't old enough to handle it yet, but I thought it was so dope. The Green Goblin.
The Green Goblin, dude.
Bad dude.
It is good. I watched it the other day too, actually. Funny enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, but I just love you.
Yeah.
And I've known you my whole life. And you're one of the best friends I've ever had. And I really think you're one of the best friends anybody in the world could have. If you're lucky to know Dallin Mulliner, like, you are blessed. And I appreciate it because you've always uplifted me. You've always had my back. You've always just been a true, sincere, loyal friend there when I need you. So I'm really excited to honor you today, talk about your journey, and just talk about this awesome dude that I've always known and loved.
Okay, well, I just want you to know that's a lot. I'll take that with a grain of salt, but thank you so much. I love you too, dude. I genuinely do. I consider you more of a brother than a friend, and always have. And I just want to start out before we even get into anything, and I want to say thank you for having me today. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story and to talk about it. But more important than that, I just want everyone to know who's listening. Tate Arnold is a good guy. Oversoul has a purpose. And I've been listening. And I think if this thing can catch some fire, which I know it will, this is going to be a great thing for the podcast community. And there's a place for it. And I love it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, totally. I'll be listening probably every episode, honestly.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just dive right in. I'm excited to talk to you because I think your story can help so many people. You have a great story. It's kind of a comeback story, and it's going to be rad. So to begin, just rip, man.
Where do you want me to start? Maybe I should I want to give some chronological, so that people have some background on my story.
Let's do it.
And then I also kind of want to start out by just saying the obvious, which we're going to talk a lot about, but I've been diagnosed as schizophrenic. So, people I went to high school with probably would be, shocked to hear that. But, I was 21 when it happened. I'm 32 now. And it's been about a decade of, the last 2.5 years have been really good. I've been in recovery. But like you said, I've overcome a lot, and I'm in a really good trajectory now. But I went through about 8 or 9 years of true hell. And anyone who knows that diagnosis knows that it doesn't just come when you're 21. It comes typically it's genetic, and there's some other factors as well as some childhood trauma. So to kind of give some chronological, I don't know why I feel the need to say this, but I actually asked my dad. I told him I was coming on the podcast. I said, can I air your laundry a little bit? And he said, yeah, absolutely. He said, go ahead and tell everyone what's going on. But when I was about 10 years old, maybe a little younger than that, my dad went to jail. And my mom was basically a single mother, in and out of relationships, married for a long time as well to some of my stepdads. But my dad went to prison for, 13, 14 years. Always kind of struggled with the law a little bit. So that was kind of traumatic, when you're young, going through that.
Absolutely.
That was hard on me, not having a dad there and having my mom be a full-time, she worked full-time. But with my mom, it was kind of a classic transference. I kind of act like my dad in a lot of ways. I have a similar personality, and I was the oldest son. And my mom and I have a great relationship now. We really do. All water's under the bridge. She's apologized to me. I've apologized to her. But I went through about 10 years from the age of 10 till 18. So maybe more like 8 years where we fought basically every day. Yelling matches, crying, everything you can think of. And so I would go to school. There's this great quote, kids who have a good home life go to school to learn, and kids who have a poor home life go to school to be loved. And that's really where I felt loved, was in school. But then I would go home to this mess. And so I would always leave to my friend's house, to your house, or to, my other buddy Dylan's house, or Matt's house, or whoever's. I would always try and get out of that environment because my mom and I really struggled. So that's kind of the background of, like I said, everything's great with my mom and even with my dad now. But I went through some childhood trauma, which definitely contributed to my diagnosis once I was 21.
Surely. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened. And I guess to give you a rundown of like the last, 8-9 years. So between 21 to 30, basically, I've been married and divorced. I've, attempted suicide several times. I've been hospitalized about 12 different times into the psych ward. I've been in financial ruin. I've gained and lost weight like so much. I was just telling you earlier before we started, I've been 280 pounds and 180 pounds 3 different times in the past decade, due to medication. And
you're the biggest loser.
I'm the biggest loser. Yeah. Yeah. I know how to lose weight, in a healthy way and in a non-healthy way. I've moved several times. I've been homeless for a cumulative about living in my car or literally on the sidewalk, sleeping on the sidewalk, the cold, barren sidewalk, about 3 months of my life. I've been on homeless. And I've burned bridges in my family life and even in my friend life. And I've been through a lot in the last, decade. So because of my diagnosis. So I don't know what you want to talk about when it comes to schizophrenia, but I do feel like there's a connection because schizophrenia in terms of mental health is kind of on the far end of the scale. But all the things I went through and all the principles of overcoming that and getting healthy and getting on medication, all of that journey, can be related to anyone struggling with anything in mental health, from depression to just having a bad day to having anxiety to bipolar disorder, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know so much of that story, but even hearing it back, hearing everything you're saying, my heart goes to you, man, because you've had to bear a cross that most people have no idea what that feels like. So I just want to validate your experiences and just, say that I love you and congratulate you on being able to come out of a really dark place. You mentioned for the last 2.5 years, you found this stability with the schizophrenic illness. So maybe you can just help educate all of us listening on the channel. What's it like to be in that head state? How would you explain for people who are trying to grasp what it might be about?
What a great question. That's such a good question. But because, everyone always asks that when I do share with them that I have had that diagnosis. And it's not important to put labels on it. Just real quick before we get into that, because I will explain what it's like. But what's going on a level, usually when someone has, bipolar disorder with psychotic features or schizophrenia, which is what you would typically see a homeless man on the street is typically dealing with that. Or drugs, one or the other. But drugs induce it too. So sometimes it's both. A lot of times that is the case. But what it is it's an excretion in your brain and areas of the brain it shouldn't, of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, usually is what it is. So it's just these chemical imbalances inside your brain that make you choose so it's kind of like being a diabetic. You wouldn't be negative towards someone who can't produce enough insulin. There's just something wrong with the organ. And so unfortunately with brain diseases, and it is a disease, it's classified as a disease. It's just basically a chemical imbalance at its very root. So what it's like when you're on dopamine highs and serotonin highs and norepinephrine highs, it's kind of having a superpower. Like, I'm going to share a story with you today, and hopefully we get to that, of what I call walkabout, where I walked 250 miles through the wilderness of California, and I camped and was homeless in about 2.5 weeks. I walked 250 miles. So you get an enormous amount of energy. There's usually mania attached to it, which not only are your decision making impaired, but you're also juiced up on like adrenaline, basically.
Wow.
But to put it lightly, if you've ever done any type of like marijuana, getting high on marijuana, where you're really paranoid, or your sensations are just kind of firing on all cylinders, that's kind of what it's like as well. But so it's kind of like that, but that's basically the best way I can explain actually being in an episode. One of the episodes I've had, I literally thought, have you seen The Truman Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally thought I was on The Truman Show. So I literally thought my dad and my mom and my sisters and you and all my friends weren't really my family and friends. I thought they were characters in a movie, and I was in a dome of some sort, and I was being tricked, and that I was actually a kid of a corporation. I legitimately thought this. I thought the government was after me. And I would like read license plates, and I'd read into that. I don't know if you've seen A Beautiful Mind, how he finds codes and different things. You find codes. And so you're just heightened in paranoia, basically.
Yeah.
And so what it's like is you're in an alternate reality. And so when you see someone who's going through that, they're making decisions usually that are pretty sound, that are pretty like themselves, but it's in a different reality. And so it's hard to understand when you're in a different reality. And there's some really hard things with that, because you go through, like I thought I was married to a woman I wasn't married to for a time. And I've had to kind of mourn that relationship as I've gotten healthy. I thought that was a real thing. And then I get on medication. I go to the hospital, get on medication. I've had these last 2 years where I've been in a good medication spot, and I've been able to get healthy. And I've had to kind of mourn that and re-put myself out there in the field, and it's almost like losing a family member. So I would say that's probably the best, most inclusive way I can explain what it's like to be, unhealthy and schizophrenic.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting for one.
Yeah.
And also sounds very scary. And I'm just so grateful that you've found a way to work through it and overcome a lot of that difficulty in your own life.
Yeah.
And thanks for being vulnerable about those things, which are not easy to talk about.
I'm an open book.
You are an open book. That's what I love about you. You always have been, man.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I see no reason in hiding it. I want people to love me for who I am, not for some fake version of me. And first of all, I trust you immensely. But second of all, I would share it with anyone, like we were talking, if there's anyone who knows anyone who's been through this, or I want to share my story and what kind of worked for me. And, one of the things you and I have always said to each other, I wrote it in my book and we've kind of repeated it to each other. But life is a journey, not a destination. And that is so true for this illness. There's no destination to get to. It's just a journey, and what journey you're on, and if you're healthy or unhealthy. And, I really, like you said, the word stability, I really am stable at this point. If you look at the stats, going 2.5 years of stability, I'll probably go the rest of my life without really having problems now that I've found a medication that actually works for me. But most people who are schizophrenic, they end up homeless and dead. I would say that as far as the stats go, it's like 50 to 60%. So getting this message out to people, being vulnerable is very important to normalize taking medication. So that way that you don't end up choosing drugs and ending up on the street and, basically essentially dead.
Yeah.
That's not good. So
no, that's a great message. And I know the stats are scary.
Yeah.
And I know it's meaningful to have this conversation for me because I have family and other friends who have a similar diagnosis to what you're dealing with. So want them to know, hey, there's hope and help, and however terrible it seems, look at Dal. I mean, he's made it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you to watch me go through it? Because I've let you in on basically the whole journey. I mean, you've been there step by step. You've been the greatest friend. When you say you love me, I mean, dude, I love you, dude. I love you like a brother. You really have been a true brother to me. And I've always known that you're someone I can fall back on.
Thank you, man.
And look up to and get help from. You're a good support system. So what's it been like for you to watch me go on this journey?
Yeah, that's a cool question.
Because you knew me in high school when I wasn't this way.
Yeah. I want to answer that, but the first thing that I want to say is that as I've gotten older in particular, I really do believe that in life, we are not alone. Whatever our challenges are, whatever we have to overcome, I think before we come to Earth, I think we make contracts with people, soul contracts.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hippie woo idea.
No, dude, it's true.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And there's some people that you connect with and you just know, okay, we have an obligation to each other that we're going to look out for each other and have each other's backs. And that gets into, my personal beliefs about where we come from and the nature of God and reality. So for me, and now I have a name for it, but I've always felt a contract with you. I mean, why do you make the friends that you do? Why are you so close with certain people? I feel like our friendship is something that to me is sacred. It's something that transcends just normal life. And that's the brotherhood that I really feel and see with you.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about what was it like watching you, I want the listeners to know that the man I'm sitting across from is an extremely intelligent person. You're super smart, always have been. You were a 4.0 student, great at school, love to learn, ambitious, creative, funny. And that's the core real Dal. So when we talk about these diagnoses and the things that can happen, it's like, this isn't some bum who made bad decisions and found himself wandering through the wilderness.
Yeah.
He's an incredibly intelligent, smart, deep, empathetic dude. And I honestly think when the diagnosis first came out, I felt really scared. I felt scared because I didn't know what was going to happen to my friend, for one. I started to wonder, could that happen to me? And there's a lot of times in life where I found myself feeling afraid that, what if I end up in a situation like that? To be totally honest.
That makes sense, dude.
Yeah.
That is totally an honest reaction.
Yeah. Because it just came on so suddenly.
Yeah.
Right. There was no sign. I couldn't look to you in high school or junior high and ever think that you had some mental illness waiting for you.
Yeah.
It's weird how it came on like that. And it's interesting to me how schizophrenia seems to come on in this like particular age range from what I understand.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Usually between 20 and 28.
So weird.
Sometimes between 14 and 28.
Okay.
Those are the 80% of all cases, 14 to 28, but it can come on anytime.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's a pattern that I just don't know that much about.
But usually you're 21, like 50% of everyone is 21. For
okay.
21
that's the
22.
average.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was hard for me watching you because I just love you, and when you see anybody that you love going through a difficult situation, you want to help, you want to be there. And I think what's so difficult about schizophrenia, to your point, is that you get into an alternate reality and nobody can help you. That's how it feels, at least.
Yeah.
There were so many times when I would reach out to you, for example, and different number.
Yeah.
And we kind of go through these periods where I would think it's a it's an on time or an off time.
Yeah.
You know, kind of funny, but also tragic.
Yeah. Also true,
Also
though.
sucks.
True. That's so funny, though.
You know, and like, oh, here's Dal now. He's back. The new number. But then all the boys would say, does anybody know Dal's current number? Nobody knows. So I go through my phone and I've got, you know, probably over the last 10 years, I've since cleaned up my contacts, but at one point I had like Dal new. Dal new. I was like, Dal official, real Dal. Dal's old number, you know, I had all these different numbers because I'd just be chilling. And then somehow you always found my number. And it kind of like, hey, I'm back. Like, yeah, okay, good. You know, you're over whatever episode and we'd be able to connect and have a good time again and chat.
Yeah.
But then I always felt like, oh, he's gone again.
Yeah.
And every time that you were gone, man, honestly, I wept, bro, to be honest. Because you talked about the survival rates are low. Man, I'm crying, man, because there were so many times when I thought, you know, maybe that's the last time I see my friend and my brother. I didn't know. And I would think about you, I'd pray about you and try to think about where you are, what you're doing.
Your prayers were heard, man.
Man, I love you, man.
Yeah.
For real. And it just made me sad. Because I wanted to help you, but I had no idea how, man. I read so many books. I read articles. I tried to figure it out. You know, what's the deal with schizophrenia? What the hell is this thing? It's so freaky.
Yeah.
So when you found a point where you're stable, and I've had your same number in my phone for years now, and we get to talk and have this conversation,
Yeah.
I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad you found the right thing that's working for you, and it's good to have you back.
Thanks. Yeah, that is so interesting to hear you say all that. And I'm crying too, man, for real. And what you describe about your support through all that ups and downs, I felt, dude, I think now is a good time to talk about walkabout. Is that okay?
Let's hit it.
Okay, so walkabout is when I just got married and divorced, okay? And that was again due to my illness, and I don't want to air her laundry or my laundry. But it basically, you know, that went over quick. And so I went out to live with my dad in California, and the Truman Show delusions started happening. I stopped taking my medication. And I started getting really upset that my dad was, you know, this fake dad that was pretending to be my dad, that I was on this TV show and the government was watching me and trying to hurt me. And, I decided to leave his house, and I didn't have anywhere to go. I walked from Newport Beach all the way to San Bernardino in about a week. And I was out in the wilderness of Yucaipa. I was in the mountains and everything. And I walked about 250 miles in about 3.5 weeks. There were people along the way that helped me. You know, I remember going into a McDonald's and had no money. I hadn't eaten in like 3 days. And this little kid could just tell I was homeless. And he came up and gave me his Happy Meal. And his family didn't tell him to do that. He just gave me it. He knew I just looked malnourished, and I looked not good. That was one. I remember I was in Yucaipa, and I had walked about 20 miles that day. And it was about midnight, and I was down in like a little, it wasn't like a slot canyon, but it was a little canyon with a river running through it. And I was just totally didn't know where I was. I was way off in the heads mentally. And I see this fire down the way. And this guy's name's Gideon. I go up to him. I say, "Hey, what's your name?" He goes, "My name's Gideon." And I say, I'm Dallin. You know, I haven't had any food. Is there anything you could spare me? And he was a homeless guy living in that little canyon. And he went on to tell me that story that night. We kind of shared information with each other, what was going on. And he told me that he had murdered someone early in his life. He was about 50 years old, and he had just gotten out he had served his time and he was just gotten out and he had no money and he was living off government paychecks. So he kind of had limited amount of food. And that night he cooked me a steak with bread. And you're going to love this next part. He had a bunch of Kool-Aid and he had no idea what that meant to me because we sat there and drank Kool-Aid and he fed me this steak sandwich and he could tell I was just in this terrible place. And he got me a sleeping bag and I slept by the fire. And all through the night, till 6 a.m, he kept putting wood on the fire and kept feeding the fire and making sure I was warm. Got up in the morning, he cooked me eggs all over the fire like we were camping. And then I went on my way and I went, throughout the wilderness of California. At this point, my dad, my mom, they filed police reports for a missing person. People are out looking for me. My family thinks I'm dead. And I'm hearing the prayers in my heart of you and my dad. And there's 2 other points I want to make before I kind of end this story. But the one time I really heard your prayers. I had gotten stuck. I was trailing down a mountain. I was out in the wilderness and it was about noon when I was doing that. And I got to a point to where I I couldn't go up because it was so steep how I got down there. And I couldn't go right because it was like kind of a big drop off. And there was this rock wall that was next to me. And the only way I could kind of get past that rock wall and kind of get my way down is to go through that. So I knew I was like, okay, I'm basically stuck here. I basically have to rock climb my way out of here or I'm going to die. And I get on the rock wall and I kind of scale it and I get to a point to where there's no other way for me to get over, to get up, to get under. I'm kind of stuck and I'm kind of sliding and I look down and there's trees with branches that are on the ground and that would have impelled me if I would have fallen off the wall. And I was freaking out. I was tired. I was hungry. I went another 3 days without eating or drinking water. And I knew right then and there, I said it out loud. I said, this is it. This is the end of my life. And the thought popped in my head, say a prayer, just one last prayer to see if there's anything you can do. And I said a prayer, I said, Heavenly Father, if there's any way you can get me out of this situation, do it. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And I hear this. I now know what people say when they don't hear an actual voice, but they hear a voice, because I heard a voice say to me, look up. And I look up and there's this whole time that I hadn't seen. And I grab onto it and pull myself up. And then there's a clear path to the right to get out of there. And I get out of there. I go down, I go around, and I fall to the ground and I pass out till about midnight. So I passed out for about 8, 9, 10 hours. And I wake up and there's a river next to me and I drink a bunch of water. And at that moment in time, your name specifically came into my mind. Like, he knows where I am. He knows that I'm struggling and he loves me. And that was enough to get into a highway to, basically to hitchhike myself to safety and to basically call my dad. And my dad came and picked me up and eventually drove me to St. George, where I asked to be at a homeless shelter. And that's a whole story in and of itself. But that was Walkabout, was just out in the journey, out in the wilderness, and it was getting on medication after that and realizing that the choices that I make while I'm schizophrenic, while I'm in manic, an episode, I could lose my life. I almost died from it. And it really woke me up towards being responsible and taking my medication from there on out.
Man.
Yeah. So I know it was a long story, but
it's a great story.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you made it through Walkabout and it all worked out. That's such an interesting story.
Yeah.
And so many things we could talk about. What's bringing to mind for me, I had a interview with Kenzie Evans.
No way.
Kenzie came on.
Cool.
So her episode will, by the time people watch
love
this
you,
one,
Ken's, by the way.
She's great. But by the time people watch this, they will have seen Ken's.
Yeah.
And Ken's talks about her younger brother, Getty.
Yeah.
Who's lived homeless now for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And one thing Kenzie talked about is that there's no coincidences in life. And she believes that's because of God and connection. I feel the same way. She talks about Getty, her brother, and she said she just wonders how he's alive. She doesn't know. And it's a similar story for you when you're in that case. How are you alive? How did you make it? I think like what Kenzie said, because of God. It's because of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's because of...
It's pure luck, man.
Well, it's luck and it's love, but I really, truly believe there's angels and they watch over us and they help us and they guide us when we're in difficult spots and situations. And like whenever I'd pray, when you were in an episode and we lost you for a while, right, to protect him, because I don't know where he is. You're in God's hands. And I'm grateful that you were guided, given inspiration, but also that there were those great people along the way who helped you. Shout out Gideon.
Yeah.
You
Gideon.
know, what a
Gideon
guy.
saved me, dude.
What
He
a
gave me
guy.
steak and Kool-Aid, dude.
Could there be a more literal parable about love thy neighbor and
totally? And there were tons more people that helped me along the way. I could literally, that story is 5 hours long.
Yeah.
I mean, of people just helping me left and right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for those guys
Yeah.
who step up and help you out.
Yeah.
And one thing I talk about with Ken's is that anybody you see who's having a hard time out there, that's somebody's brother. That's somebody's friend, sister, mother, father. We're all connected. And it's important to see the human wherever you are in those situations. I'm grateful that Gideon saw my boy Dal. Instead of, he could have been scared of you, some guy coming out of the wilderness.
Yeah.
But he had a Christ-like heart to share a steak.
And to feed the fire all night long.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally convulsing and shaking all night long. Because I hadn't had nutrition. And he just kept the fire warm and kept me warm all night long.
Yeah.
There was no reason for him to do that.
No.
It was it was one of the true, most beautiful things I've ever experienced.
It's like, if you've done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me.
Yeah.
I read that parable, Lord, when did we feed thee? Or when did we clothe thee? You know that one?
Yeah.
Like, man, awesome to me.
Yeah.
I love it. So thanks for sharing the cool story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was part of Walkabout.
Walkabout.
Yeah.
That's a wild deal.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go back a little bit now that we have this context and we've heard your story.
Okay.
Here, people are getting a sense about what it's like and what you've been through.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk a lot about trauma on the channel. Want people to heal, know that you can move on from things like that. And I know you're an open book. Talk to us about how trauma has impacted your life. You talked about a little bit in the beginning.
Well, trauma leads to depression. Like, one of the things that I have shared a little bit today is that I've tried to commit suicide before. That's part of the reason I've been at the hospital sometimes. And I'll put it this way. When I was 8 years old, this is a little explicit. Am I okay to share this? My mom and I, my dad had recently gone to prison, so that was fresh off my mind. I was really close to him, so that was hard for me. And my mom was pretty hard on me. And there was one night it got so bad, we got in such a big fight that I actually tied a rope around the top of my bunk bed and I jumped off the top. And I'm lucky that I was not smart enough to realize that the rope was long enough that I just landed and I hit really hard. But I was trying to kill myself. And that one no one knew about, really. I was like 10 when that happened. But I've had serious attempts that have involved other people that's ended me in the hospital. And when it's true trauma, we all go through all types of trauma. But when it's true trauma, I mean, a lot of depression can be involved. That's what comes to mind. Is you kind of think it kind of hones you in on the moment, and you kind of think that there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I would say that trauma has impacted me in that way where it just feels like it's kind of hopeless for like the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot about Gabor Mate recently on the channel, a doctor who I really appreciate.
Yeah.
He talks about trauma as a big T and a little t.
That's so good.
Great. Because there's little things that can be traumatic.
Absolutely.
Chronically.
Absolutely.
There's big T's.
Yeah.
And I think you've had big T's and little T's as you've gone through life. And the connection that I feel is sometimes mental illness is genetics. It comes on. But Dr. Mate talks about it's often linked to our epigenetics. How we have our genes, we inherit our genes, and our genes express differently depending on our environment, depending on the trauma that we go through. And what's weird about it is that epigenetics can pass on through generations. So one thing I talked about in one of my letters is that there's studies with mice. And in these studies, they'll shock the mice after they ring a bell.
Interesting.
And so whenever they're conditioned, so whenever those mice hear the bell, they're scared of the shock.
Right.
But then they stop doing the shock and the mice have babies, grandbabies, great-grandbaby mice, all the way down through 5 or 7 generations. And when they ring the bell, those mice, 7 generations later, flinch because they're scared of the shock coming.
Wow.
So it's passed down.
They remember. Yeah.
Yeah. The body keeps the score. The genetics remember.
That is definitely true about trauma.
Yeah.
This is why I love you, dude. You said you called me smart, dude. You're like the smartest guy I know. I'm
No way.
Dude, but like literally, you always have great insights about so much stuff. You really do. And I love how much you read. You're the epitome of a lifelong learner.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. But and I try to be, but sometimes I go through phases where I'm like, I can't read today. But yeah, I mean, I think about that. First of all, your hardest thing, I've heard this somewhere. I don't remember. I think Theo Vaughn said this, but he said, your hardest thing is what your hardest thing is. So the trauma you go through is a big T. It might be a little T to somebody else, but it's a big T to them because it's the biggest T that they've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone goes through trauma, and there's no reason in minimizing or saying mine's harder than yours, or sometimes that happens. I've been to like support groups where there's like trauma battles. We all go through trauma, and the epigenetics is we all experience the shock to some degree. Like maybe someone wasn't nice to you in high school, and then you're at a job and a similar situation comes up and you're like, well, I didn't really like that. And there wasn't anything to it, but it was just kind of a trauma response from way earlier, or maybe it's something like me and my mom, when we get in a certain conversation and it triggers her that we used to yell at each other, and it triggers me, and we have to stop the conversation now and come back to it later because we don't want to deal with the trauma we experienced at that time. But I would say the number one thing that has helped me heal from trauma, because I have been through my fair share, is basically, time heals all wounds. So that's one. So the length of time. And then number 2 is discussing it with people. Therapy. I don't meet with him anymore, but I had a therapist for 5 years. And being able to truly explain my true emotions in a safe environment for a very long time with friends and with family and with that therapist, that has truly helped me process through the trauma. So even though I still, when the bell rings, I still get shocked, at least I understand why I'm feeling shocked. I may still react weird to it, but at least I understand why. And the reason why brings a lot of peace of mind. You know what I mean?
Huge.
And that helps you heal. So the next time the bell rings, it's not quite as big of a response,
Yeah.
And so I would say just, men don't like to do it as much. There's kind of a stigma around it, but being able to talk with you over the years, doing this right now, part of the reason I think people like listening to podcasts like myself is because it helps you process through stuff. And women happen to be very good at this, and they're really good at, processing through trauma in that way.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Great.
yeah.
Well said. And I think it's true because there's so many things to touch on. We talked about trauma, big T, little t.
Yeah.
Another quote from Gabor Mate is trauma is not what happens to you. It's how your body responds as a result of what's happened to you.
So true.
So different for everybody.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool to say. And then we talk about how you were able to process through with therapy, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should be able to do it. And then you talked about the stigma that some people don't want to be able to go to therapy and talk through things. You're supposed to just keep it in you and push it down.
Yeah.
But that's
hardcore.
Yeah. But that's the body responds. Would you say, we talked about your medication in terms of helping you heal and get regulated. What was therapy like for helping you heal and kind of reach some stability?
My therapist told me this quote from Albert Einstein. He said, therapy is kind of like riding a bicycle. This is what Albert Einstein said. He said, life is like riding a bicycle. You have to keep pushing to balance. And I'm probably butchering that quote, but that's a paraphrase of it.
That's right.
And he said, therapy is just like that. You have to push through it. You have to, and what he meant, and this is what he meant you have to find the right therapist. So you have to push till you find the right person you match with, kind of like dating, honestly. And then 2, when you're in therapy, you have to give it a go. It might not go well the first time. You might think this is a waste of money or this is a waste of time, but you have to give it a go. And as you build a relationship with someone that you're compatible with, it really becomes a true form of outlet. And, I'm in a healthier place now in my life, and I'm doing a lot better. And like I was telling you, this is the best I felt since before my diagnosis, and this is the most stable I've been since before my diagnosis. And I would even consider going to a therapist now because it's such a beautiful experience to be able to share with someone, and you really have therapy if you're in a relationship with someone and you guys have an open dialogue. That is therapeutic in and of itself. So
great.
Yeah, that's what I would say to that.
What therapeutic methods were the most beneficial for you?
I know there are lots of therapy. Like I've even heard, like you've explained what ayahuasca is. There's like people use different substances and stuff like that. I prescribe more to just literally, I don't know what it's called, but it's just, you literally just talk out. So I like a solution-based therapy. There's lots of therapies where you focus on like childhood trauma, and that is good. I think it's worth it to go through what you've been through, but then to also focus on what can I do to overcome this? Because if you spend too much time talking about how things were bad in the past, then you'll just focus on that. But if you focus on what does the future hold for me, then there's hope to overcome. And then you can, it may seem like there's not a solution at first, but as you talk through it over several sessions, you end up coming to a conclusion where you're like, I can do this thing. Like, for instance, one of the big problems I had with medication was I gained weight on it and it was expensive. And it took me a long time, a lot of therapy to realize that I can afford it to keep my health right. And I can live a life where I can eat right and I can be healthy and I can manage the weight gain and I can, get off the weight and stuff. And so if I would have never gone to therapy, I would still be stuck in this mode where I can't take medication because of those reasons. But now, I know that it helps my life, it's beneficial, and I can deal with those things.
Great.
So yeah, I would say talking is mainly the best therapy that's been helpful for me.
Cool. Talking it through.
Solution based,
talking it through.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for people who have recently been diagnosed with some kind of mental health challenge?
Dude, the 3 most things that I can think of that are helpful to someone who's been diagnosed with something serious or even something not that serious is, the first thing is work hard at everything. So work hard at your diagnosis, work hard at your job, work hard at school, work hard in your family, Work hard in your relationships. Develop a work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic of working hard, like you're a podcaster, work hard at being a good podcaster. Work hard at it. And so a work ethic will get you through tough times. The second thing I would say probably is have a support system. I've had family and friends that have really been there for me. I've met people on the streets and in the hospital that don't have a support system, and it's just not fair. It makes me angry with the world because they don't have as good of chances because they don't have that support there. So I would say develop a support system that can help you when times are tough. And then the third thing I would say is just what we've been saying, pray. Develop a relationship with God and let God guide you. Let God be, this sounds cliche and almost like a little deranged, but let the Spirit guide you after you pray. What is the Spirit? We spend a lot of time talking to God, but do we listen to what he has to say? You don't have to be a part of a religion to know that. There's something bigger than us that's speaking to all of us. And I would say, developing a relationship with God, so prayer, working hard, and having a support system, there's probably a million things, but those are the three things that really come to mind when it comes to someone who's just been diagnosed. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. It's going to take some time. And then the last thing I would say is take your medication. Take your meds, okay? I know you don't want to. Take them. You need them. They'll help you function. They'll balance out the dopamine and the serotonin that's misfiring. You wouldn't tell someone who's diabetic to not take their insulin shots. Take your medication. There's stigma around it. Second generation medications are so much better these days. It truly is the perfect time in the world to get this diagnosis. There's never been less of a stigma and more medical advancements that could help you. So take your meds.
That is great. Great advice. That's so funny, man.
Yeah. Because some people, you'll hear a lot of people say you don't need meds. People who really don't believe, because you can't see a broken arm. You can see a broken arm, but you can't see a broken, dopamine receptor.
Yeah.
And so people say you can just through health and diet or diet and exercise or, whatever the case may be. There's so many philosophies out there. I'm just going to keep it simple and say the best advice is take your medication. I have a stepbrother right now who's bipolar, and he needs to hear that. He needs to take his meds. He's in an episode as we speak right now, and it's not good. And it's all the things you've been explaining. I'm now seeing your side of things because I want to help him, but there's honestly nothing I can do at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And he just needs to take his meds and things would be fine again. So it's getting to the point of taking your meds.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember times when we could start to see your spiral beginning.
I'd say it.
And just like, Dal, you take your meds? And people would, I can't remember who it was, our buddy Dave.
Yeah.
He's like, I saw Dal flushed him down the toilet or something, or crushed up in the garbage or like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot of sympathy because I can see how, sometimes life does feel like a Truman Show type experience.
Yeah.
And you find yourself asking all these questions, what's going on? It's not hard for me to see how people get to a point where, wait, about these meds, and maybe they're bad. Maybe they're controlling me. And I have a lot of sympathy. And I especially do just from our lives and experiences together that I understand where people are coming from. And I just have a lot of empathy, and it's all good. Whoever's out there going to be okay.
Yeah.
Take them, as Dal says, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Big time, man.
Could I share another story?
Yeah, please.
About a support system?
Yeah.
So I was in the hospital. This was like my 5th time. And I had made a goal after my 4th time to never go back, to be on my meds. I had all these aspirations to just do everything right. And now I'm sitting there in the hospital completely heartbroken. I'm back here again. I dropped out of college. Life sucks. I'm feeling like there is no tomorrow. And this nurse comes in and pats me on the back. And I look at her and I say, what do you know about schizophrenia? Does it ever get better? Will I ever heal from this? She looked me straight in the face and she said, no, you won't ever heal from it, but you can manage it and you can manage it well. And it was really hard to hear that at that time. But I look back on that now, and that was the most honest, forgiving, beautiful thing she could have said to me at that time. And she was the nurse that takes your blood pressure. She wasn't a therapist in the hospital. That wasn't her job, wasn't to tell me what to do, but she was supporting me, you know? And so honestly, you've asked me over the time, like, what can I do when you're manic? And honestly, the best things you can do is be there for them if they do ask for something, if you can, if you're able. And then the other thing would be remind them to, that they can manage it, that they need to get help, and they need to, when they're actually manic, that they need their meds basically. And sometimes you got to pick and choose when to say that, because sometimes that can make things worse. But if you say it at the right time, like that nurse did, it really impacted me and really made my life better because of it.
Huge. Yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing to think that nurse had this big impact on you, and she just probably said it kind of in.
And she was just there to take my blood pressure.
Just helping out.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Really great story. A couple other things I want to talk about is sometimes we can look at people and get stuck in trauma or seeing people for their trauma. And I love the analogy you talked about, the broken arm. If someone has a broken arm, we take them to the hospital so they can fix their arm.
Yeah.
Easy. But it's just more complicated sometimes with other health challenges. But we wouldn't say, oh, that person has a broken arm. Sorry, we wouldn't say that person is a broken arm.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't say that person is a schizophrenic.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
To me. You're Dal, and you have this challenge that you got to deal with, but you're still your eternal good soul who, for whatever reason, has to carry this cross around with you in life. And I want to talk about Dal, the person. And I want to talk about your gifts. I want to talk about, the brightness that you have. I want to talk about what your dreams are and get to know even more about the person that I've always known growing up.
Okay, cool.
So I want to start by talking about gifts of the Spirit. There's a lot of gifts about you that I've recognized over the years. You're a great friend, very smart, hardworking is a big thing, growing up on the farm and all that. What do you see as your own God-given gifts? What is there about Dal that is the core, that even when you're manic, even when you're episodic, you know who you are?
Man, what a great question. I'm kind of self-deprecating a little bit. I don't like to talk about my gifts. But I will today a little bit. I'll try and do my best at least. I think I've been blessed with the ability to be resilient. And there's two things that go with that. It's wanting to put in the effort to try again. And it's not caring what other people think about you. Because if you care too much what other people think about you, it'll kind of crumble you. You'll kind of be like, well, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, or I don't want to put myself in any situation where someone's going to think different of me or ill of me. Those are, and when you go through, like, one common thing I go through a lot is I'm tired of being the news in the family. My goal in my life is to never be the news in the family again. When I go to the next Roberts and Mulliner party, they know that Dal's just doing good. They don't think about the last episode that they heard about. And so, but that hinders me. If I cared less about that, I mean, it's a good goal to have, but if I cared less about that and I just focused on trying again, I probably would get exactly where I need to be. And I probably would be that person that I'm describing. So I think I was blessed with the ability to be resilient in most situations. Even though I'm not perfect at it, I will get up and I will try again. Unless you kill me, I'll do it again. I'll try again. I'm okay with failure. In fact, I've I kind of enjoy it. You know, it's partly why I've liked sales over the years, and why I've been in sales a lot is because you fail a lot and you have to learn how to overcome failure. So, I would just say resiliency. I I don't know if this is a gift of my own, but I really have been blessed with a good sister. You know, she's been there for me. I call you my best friend. I call Dylan my best friend, Matt my best friend, sometimes Jake Westbrook my best friend, sometimes Jake Bentley and Yamada, you know, you a lot. But my true best friend in life is my sister. And so if you're ever blessed with the gift of a good sister, then you have Tess. So, I mean, it's like having a cheat code. It's like being on a video game and having a cheat code to life. So a lot of my success and help in life and the things that I've done good have come from the fact that I have an awesome sister, 2 awesome sisters, really, but one that I'm really close to.
She's great.
Those are the 2 gifts that I can think of. Oh, and then I'm kind of optimistic. I tend to be on the more optimistic side of things. And I like to laugh. I'm not necessarily a funny person, but I'll laugh at all your jokes.
You're definitely a funny person.
I mean, I'll take that with a grain of salt, but I do love to laugh. I think that's so important. If we're not laughing, what are we here for? If it's all serious, what are we doing? You know, we're here to enjoy it, and laughter is the best way to do that.
I love it, man.
And it extends years on your life, scientifically speaking.
Yeah.
So laughter is a good thing.
True. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that you recognize all those gifts. As you're talking about them, I definitely think those are true. And it's easy to see how those gifts you just mentioned, boom, they carried you through these really hard things in life. The resiliency is a big one I want to talk about because you've always been very resilient. I think about you being resilient in how you were dedicated to working on the farms, working at the dairy farm in Idaho when you were a kid and a teenager. You go every summer, you'd work hard, you'd get up early, you'd crank on the work. You have that good farmer discipline and mentality that keeps you going. And I always thought that carried over to other things that you're talented at. A lot of people, they don't know because they've never met you, but you were a phenomenal basketball player. You were a great basketball player. You played in high school at a very, very talented Lone Peak High School that we went to that won national championships and all that. And you were there in that system, competing, playing well. And it's not because you were the fastest or you had the biggest hops, but you worked your butt off. You were resilient. You'd put up all the shots you needed to. You'd do the conditioning you needed to. And you earned every minute and every opportunity through your pure grit and don't quit mentality. And that was an awesome thing about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then that ties into your boxing. So I want to talk about.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of failure in boxing, I'm sure, as you were getting into that sport.
Yeah, I'm still into it. I don't box as much in the last 6 months, but I was taking lessons and I love boxing. Boxing is here's what I don't like about it. I don't like inflicting pain on other people, and I don't want pain to be inflicted on me. But
wrong sport.
It's the wrong sport for that. But hitting it out on the bag talk about therapy. If you get a couple boxing gloves and you go at it on the bag and you let yourself pretend like you're in the match, you know, and you go for it, you pop in some headphones, some tunes, that is just as therapeutic as basketball, as any other sport, you know, and that has really helped me stabilize over the last couple of years. So I really appreciate you saying all that other stuff because, you know, the farm is a huge part of my identity. You know, that has served me. I've been able to support myself and my family at times because I've learned how to work on the farm. And so it's a big part of my identity was, you know, I did that 11 summers growing up. And then I did it after college too for some time. So, you know, milking cows, moving pipe, waking up early in the morning, feeding the cattle, you know, hauling hay, that is all intense work. And it really taught me the value of a good hard day's work.
I think that's...
In fact, it's leading into my decision to wanting to become a plumber, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
I would really, right now I'm working for my aunt in a family company. I help manage and am a part of the career business where we transport medical specimens from hospitals and pathology labs. And that's great. But I would really like to learn a trade, and I'd like to work with my hands again. I'd like to put in an honest, hard day's work. I could go back to college and finish my degree. I'm right there, but I don't want to do that. I don't see that serving me. I see like doing something like plumbing sounds, kind of like the farm to me. So that's something I'd like to get. I'm probably next year I'm gonna try doing plumbing school and go that direction.
Great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
And I've talked about how you're such a good student. Your diligence, your dedication, your resilience showed up in school too, where you worked really hard to have great grades. I mean, didn't you graduate with a 4.0?
yeah. I graduated with a 4.0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you had great opportunities going to college, and
yeah,
just the mental health just derailed your ability to finish school.
yeah.
It's almost like you couldn't make it through full semesters a lot of times.
Well, I had mania and psychosis and episodes throughout all of college. The whole time I was, and I still maintained a 3.8 GPA, and I, finished 75 credits.
Great.
So that's how well I did.
Yeah. Resilience.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine going through what you're going through and you're still
Yeah.
finding a way to keep moving the ball. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting now you talk about, because you could finish up school, you could work any kind of career you want because you're very intelligent. You can get things done and really kick butt. So I think it's interesting that you want to go do plumbing, which is great. People can make a ton of money doing plumbing.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what is it about you that makes you gravitate toward that particular career?
I like that you can be a business owner once you're kind of a master plumber. I like that I like that you grow in pay over time. As you get more experience, you get higher pay. And I think that when I put in effort, I want to be rewarded for the effort I put in.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you can eventually kind of branch out on your own and maybe own your own business.
Mm-hmm.
I like that those are options. I also like that you put in an honest, hard day's work, plumbing, that just sounds so like you just kind of like farming, you go out and feed the cattle and milk the cows, and then you come back in for the day, it's a simple life, and it's something that's needed. Everyone needs a good plumber. You don't need a plumber until you do. And when you do, you need a good one. So, it's a valid trade, it's totally a valid trade. And, it's cheaper to go and get, it's very practical, and I like that about it. That's what I think the practicality of it is what drives me to it.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I can see the connection between the good day's work, farming, good day's work, plumbing.
Yeah.
That's something I always enjoyed when I was building houses too.
Yeah.
There's something so satisfying about being able to actually build or fix or do something in the real physical world that makes you feel accomplished.
Yeah.
Cool.
Totally. It kind of like being woodworking, like you get to see your final product. That's exciting to me.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And so we talked about your gifts, which are all so true. Those are some of the best things about you. And I like to talk about, with those gifts, your calling. So when I talk about this kind of ladder, and some people, everyone's at a different point on this ladder. Some are stuck in trauma, shame, pain, grief, whatever. And as we heal, we figure things out, we move up the ladder. So we're getting to love and joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you're
I love it.
feeling a lot right now.
Yeah.
And I think once we've gotten up there, we've kind of climbed out of the hole. It becomes about the bigger picture for your life. What's your calling? Who do you serve? What are you here to do? And taking all of the stuff you've been through and turning it into something really meaningful. I want to know what's the meaning for you in your life right now? How do you tie this journey all together, and what does it mean?
Great question. Okay. So I want to give back to the people who've given to me. So one of the things I want to do is I want to invest my time and my energies into you, into my sister, into my mom, into my dad, into my brother, to my other sister. I want my friends to know I love them and care about them. That is truly a calling in my life. They've been such a blessing. They've been there for me through the ups and downs, through so much of life. And so I think cultivating relationships is one of the callings I have in life, as well as having a family. I eventually want to get married. And if I can't have kids, I want to adopt kids. That's my life goal. That's really where I feel like my goal is not even the right way to put it. Like it's my calling. I want to have a family. I truly feel strongly about that. I've always wanted a family. So those two things are the things I can think of right now. But as far as like providing for my family, maybe, so like being a plumber is a little bit of a calling.
Mm-hmm.
I think serving, in my church and in my community, that's a part of my calling. But those are the things that come off my mind right now.
I love that.
I haven't thought deep enough about it. I know that's part of your podcast, and it's made me think about it. And I haven't thought about it enough to go like, because I think one of your callings, Tate, one of your talents and callings is what we're doing right now. Like I have been a huge beneficiary of you. And what that means is you're so good at conversation, and you add so much to the environment you're in and the people you're around.
Thank you, man.
And so this is a calling of yours, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so excited for it. I can't wait for it to take off.
Thanks, man.
It probably already has, but I can't wait for it to take off even more, because I really think this is one thing that you will do great at. But I don't have anything like that in mind, but just kind of a simple, like, have a family and cultivate the relationships I already have.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. There's no formula for that question at all. I love that is your goal.
Yeah.
And you will be a great family man because you're so good to everybody in your life. You always treated people with kindness and love and respect. And you have one of the biggest hearts of anybody that I know. Everyone who's your friend is lucky to have you. And
thanks, Tate. You too, Tate.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Whatever that future family is that you end up having will be so blessed. And I think they'll be really blessed by your perspective. And because you've been through hard things in life, and you'll be able to be a guide and a mentor and someone who's empathetic and help everybody on their paths too.
Like I think about your two little girls, and that is the cutest, coolest, most exciting thing I know about you, man.
Thank you, man.
It really is like coming in here and seeing her healthy and happy. Oh man, I just think about your family, man, and I just get jazzed. I hope so. I pray to God so much that I'll have an experience like that in my life.
That's great. You will. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love my girls. They're such a blessing, man.
Yeah.
More so than I ever imagined was possible. I'm grateful that I get to have them in life. We talk about the soul contract.
Yeah.
We talked about.
Yeah.
And you really see that with your kids. It's interesting to me. My little girls have taught me more about the spiritual nature of life than anything else. Because where do they come from? It freaks me out when I think about it in a great way.
Yeah.
They come from somewhere and they come to life who they are with their gifts, with their souls, with their personalities. And you get this glimpse that our lives are so much bigger than we can see or process. And again, I don't know why you've been through what you've been through. I have no idea. But I think it's for a good purpose ultimately, especially the fact that you're still here with us thriving and living a great life. It's a testament that God needs you for a special purpose, whatever that may be. We'll figure out what it is.
Yeah, with your help, I think we can figure something else out.
Yeah. But I want to know too, you mentioned how your faith and serving your community and your church has been important to you as a calling. So talk to us about, what's faith for you and where are you at with all that?
Well, how much do you want me to surface level this, or do you want me to go kind of deeper,
You can
or
go as deep as you need,
okay,
as deep as you feel.
Well, I have what I call a bipolar relationship. Funny enough, I have a bipolar relationship with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because there's a lot of history and there's a lot of things in it that really bother me. But the actual doctrine of the church, everyone gets to go to heaven, and that Jesus Christ died for my sins, and that I can be the worst water and he can turn it into the greatest wine, and that he's there for me in tough times, and that I can pray to him and have a family that's eternal, and that I can make soul contracts as you described in the pre-existence. And
that's the philosophies of men.
Yes. No, that's great. That's great. The fact that we can do all that. I love all that. And church in the Mormon faith is where I have spoken the most with God. And so it's where I'm the most comfortable. So that's currently where I go. I attend my family ward with my dad out in California. And I would say it pretty much fits my life, even though there's a lot I disagree with. But I don't want to dive too deep in this, but I've even looked into like alternate theories on how the Book of Mormon came about. And that has kind of taken some jabs at my testimony a little bit, but ultimately I don't care about that stuff as much as I do the fact that families can be together forever. And I guess you could say on a surface level, I really like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's probably where I'll find the places that I can serve. I'll serve in the ward and do their community service that they go through that. That's where I'll give back on with my money, generally speaking, with tithing. And so that's what I meant when I said that, was that route. I just have kind of accepted that that's where I'm comfortable and that's who I am.
Great.
And so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Even though I find a lot of fault with a lot of things with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wherever you are with that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, how has your relationship or understanding of God been impacted by your mental health journeys?
Well, like I told you, I had that experience where God literally told me to look up, and it saved my life. So that was real. That's not, there was no fickleness to that. So I know God's watching, whatever that means, whether that means it's a higher power, whether it's a man, a female. I've prayed to Heavenly Mother, even though you're not supposed to do that. Apparently I do it all the time. I find more help from her than I do from him. I'm partial to women. If I'm biased one way or another, women are the best thing that's ever happened. They're God's greatest gift. And so I have found a lot of help from praying to Heavenly Mother. But people will probably get at me for saying that, but it is what it is. What I'm saying is there's something governing all of this, in my opinion. And I think prayer and learning how to pray and learning how to listen, which taken me years to figure out. I used to say, when people would say that, I'd be like, what does that even mean? But now as I've exercised it and I've done it more, it's kind of fit into the mold of my life more. And I know he's there and I know he's listening. And so I would just say I have a relationship with my Heavenly Father mainly through prayer and kind of just listening to his guiding words in my life. Like I said, that's one of the 3 things that I would tell someone who's newly diagnosed, is to pray and have a relationship with Father in heaven. That's part of the 12-step program. It's part of any program where you're struggling, is to acknowledge a higher power. And the reason why is, 1, it's real, and 2, it benefits your life like no other, like nothing else can do. It provides miracles where otherwise miracles would lack. And I've truly seen that in my life and in other people's lives that I know. I've read stories, books. I've heard people, you served a mission and I served a mission. And how can you deny? I mean, you pray like 500 times a day on your mission. Yeah. Prayer's real, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't serve a mission and not come out with that conclusion. So, I mean, there's a lot of conclusions you can come out with from a mission, good and bad. And prayer is one of those that's standard, I think. So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, great. I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Love that that's core to how you think and feel and relying on God and Jesus. We talk a lot about trauma, and I kind of had this realization a while back that I'm talking on this channel so much, but I want to talk more about as we heal, we got to involve God in it. I almost felt a little rebuked.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
You know, I was like, we got to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if people are Christian, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do it alone. And that goes back to when I'm thinking about you out in the desert, out in the wilderness, having your own biblical experience that way, wandering in the desert. Man, you're watched after. There's people looking out for you, I think, on both sides of the veil. And we're connected. It's beautiful. It's meaningful. I'm glad that you're feeling good, spiritually healthy yourself right now too.
You know, I could probably always improve, but I do. I really felt you. I felt your name specifically. I felt Dylan's name specifically. I felt my dad's name specifically and my sister's name specifically when I was out on walkabout. And I think that's only comes because you guys knew I was in trouble and you were praying for me.
Yeah.
How in the world would I was in a completely mentally unstable scenario. I wasn't thinking straight, but you guys came to mind and it guided me. So that's prayer, I think.
Yeah, I think it's powerful. Over the last couple of years, as I've become more, I guess, attuned to the spiritual nature of life, which I wasn't thinking very much about before. I had to go through some of my own, journey and challenges. But the fact that we're all connected is just amazing to me. And some people look at it like quantum physics, that everything has quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
And we're learning that that's a fact or a reality, and how our intentions literally change the world around us. So if someone has a really strong intention to care, love, think about someone who's in trouble, even just scientifically speaking, we really are sending those vibes out to them. It's weird. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah.
Or if you think about it spiritually, when you pray, you're sending all those intentions and they're actually received. And the same goes the other ways. We have negative intentions. Those negative intentions go out into the world, and those things can start to manifest in the same way too.
It's kind of like Buddha's religion, dude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's on to this idea.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has the one true perspective on what that means, but it's a cool philosophy. And then I found too, in plenty of work with ayahuasca, you really can almost see the connections and the intentions. And you start to almost pick up on the wavelengths that other people are putting out. So I 100% believe that you can feel the impact of someone coming to you through prayer, through quantum, through whatever in times of need.
Yeah.
And it's not a delusion. That's legit.
Dude, I completely agree with you. That's such an interesting way to put it. It's kind of like a scientific way of looking at religion or an aspect of religion. I agree completely. To kind of add to that, there's kind of a reverence to prayer. I've also noticed the way I pray to God is kind of a, like, for instance, do you know you can put the word hate underneath a plant and you can put the word love underneath a plant and they'll grow differently. One will grow more healthy and the other one. So I think like the words we use and there's kind of some scientific backing to being, like you said, being respectful and being loving and caring. If there's a higher power, he'd want to be loved, respected, and cared about. And I think that there's benefit into the words we use when we pray and all that. Well. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah,
that makes me think about one of the things that carried you through one of your gifts, your optimism. Because even when things are really scary and you're having your wilderness experience, you got that core optimism, even in your worst times. And I know that's true about you because I've seen it. I've visited you in the hospital at times, and
I know. Yeah.
you're still optimistic.
You brought me that BYU hat,
yeah,
bro.
That's right. Didn't they take it from you?
No, they gave it back.
They gave it back. Good.
Yeah. They let me wear it for about an hour, and then they took it because you can't have
stuff like that.
But they let me wear it for a little bit, and then they took it and then gave it back at the end.
Cool.
I don't know where it is now. I've moved and lost all my stuff so many times. Like you said, I've changed my number. I've lost every article of clothing. I've dumped it all a million different times. So I don't know where it is anymore, but I'm sad about it because I love that.
That hat was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I think me and Matt bought that hat.
Yeah. You and Matt came to visit that one time, dude. That was sick.
And we were like thinking about it before we visited you. What does Dal need most? And we realized we couldn't bring you a burrito. They didn't let us do that. Thought he needs his hat.
That's funny because I've been doing Uber Eats a little bit on the side and they asked what my favorite food is. And for a profile for when people see you coming, you can kind of see the person delivering your food. And it says, "What is your favorite food?" And I put burrito.
That's funny. That's one of my favorite stories from my life is this is such a tangent for the podcast, but goes back to why you're such a good friend. I was having such a bummer night. I think I was a junior, maybe a sophomore. I can't remember what was wrong with me, but everyone was hanging out and I couldn't for some reason. Maybe I was sick or I don't even remember, but I was at home on a Friday night, just kind of bumming out as a teenager and hear a knock on the door and ring the doorbell. It's pretty late at night. And I open the door of my house and a burrito falls into the house. And you had gotten me this breakfast burrito from a place we like, Beto's.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll sponsor the video.
Beto's, my Beto's.
Yeah. And that was somewhere we used to go as kids. And you leaned the burrito on the door. So when I opened it, it was like, just fell in.
We thought that was so funny that it would fall in.
It was so funny to me at the time. And it was just this testament to like my great friends are thinking about me enough to bring me a burrito when they know I'm feeling a little down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, dude. Dude, I have been through this wave with you where I'm like, are you going to be the president of the United States? Are you? And those are the things that are easy to see about you.
Thank you, man.
You're also just a very kind and caring person. So some of the stuff you get, some of the good stuff you get from, I'm sure from Lexi and from your friends around you and from me come because it's reciprocal, dude. You're just a good person.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think everybody's a good person for the most part.
Yeah, that's
some core I've come to believe is that everybody's good. Gideon.
Yeah. Gideon.
Gideon, man.
Yeah.
Why was he in jail in the first place? You said murder.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
Why was he in a situation like that in the first point? Goes back to what I was talking about, how the world's just broken. Where if you're in a point where that's kind of the only option that you have, that sucks.
Yep.
But Gideon's a good guy. We know he is.
Yeah,
he's a child of God.
Yeah.
He saved my friend in the wilderness.
Hey, he served his time. His time is over, you know, and he's paid his debt to society.
Yep. But everyone's good.
Yeah.
I fundamentally believe that everyone's good.
Yeah.
And if people end up in difficult situations, most of the time, I'm going to err on the side of just some crap happened.
Yeah.
Some trauma happened, inherited or whatever, and people can pull out of it. And yeah, I don't know. It's a tangent, but
absolutely.
That's what I believe is true. Everybody's good.
Dude, as Einstein once said, everyone starts out as a genius and starts out as good. And it's the choices you make that define your life. Something like that or whatever. Yeah.
It's true.
Every child starts out good and a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the choices we make. But yeah, I also agree with you that even if you make poor choices, you're still a good person. I believe we're all inherently good on the inside.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Everyone has a spirit. Everyone's spirit is good.
Yeah.
Is connected to God, wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think so much of life is being able to heal and help people get back to where they can
absolutely
be their real selves.
Yeah.
Whatever way that is. Maybe it's boxing. Maybe it's take your meds.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Well, for me, it's definitely taking my meds. That's the simplest. I've just come to the conclusion. The simplest thing for me to do is take my meds and life is good,
Yeah.
So, and I found a med that works too. Sometimes sometimes the advice of taking meds doesn't work because it's not a good medication for them to take. But if they get on the right medication, then taking your meds is the best thing to say.
Yeah, that's cool. Something that I've learned is whatever mental health thing you're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's part of the trick. If it's ADHD, if it's depression, there's all these kinds of different meds. You call them second generation meds.
Yeah.
And they can help you, but you got to find the right thing.
Right.
And I'm not advocating, I'm not pushing pharma in it or whatever people want to do. I don't have any stake in the game, only that I've seen from other people I've talked to. That's a very consistent pattern.
Yeah.
You may try out 1, 2, 3, don't work, but you get to the 4th and now your life has totally changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it is personal. I do want to give this disclaimer. You can't force anyone to take their meds no matter what they're dealing with, whether it's something like anxiety or schizophrenia. It's a personal choice to have to take it ultimately. And it's against the law to force someone to do it unless they're involuntarily committed to the hospital. So, unless they're state mandated to take their meds, it's their choice and they get to do what they want with their body. But I say that as I think that's the quickest way to a solution. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not trying to put down someone who thinks that there's better ways to handle it, but I do believe it is the best way to handle it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. That's your lived experience through decades. So you have every right to say, to say that truth.
Certainly the best thing for me. Let's do it that way.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Man. That's so awesome. Yeah. Well, maybe the last thing I want to talk about is you talk about your support network.
Okay.
And how much those people helped you and mean to you. So what message do you want to share to your own support network who may end up watching this story and hearing about your life here?
Well, first to my hero, my dad, thank you. Thank you for bailing me out of jail. Thank you for coming to the hospital when I thought you were a fake dad. Thank you for being there for me. To my sister, who's been to almost every therapeutic appointment I've ever been to, who I've yelled at and ruined her life in a lot of ways, and she's still been there for me every step of the way. Thank you. So just to everyone, to you, to everyone, thank you. Thank you for still accepting me. That's one thing I've told Jake Westbrook, who's on this podcast a lot, is I've said, dude, you're unjudgmental. I said, honestly, I was worried that he was going to think less of me. I have not felt a single bit of judgment from him, just total compassion. So thank you for being my friend still and for supporting me through my journey and what that's meant for me and for letting me be a part of your guys' journey. And then so other than thank you, I would just say, let me continue to be in your life. I just want to continue to grow those relationships. As you have a life and I have a life and we have to live our lives, but as much as we can intertwine and be a part of each other's lives, I want to. And I love all you guys and I'm there for you. I want to be the type of person that if you guys go through something hard, I can be there for you. And I would just keep it at that, I guess.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Dale.
Dude, this has been beautiful, man. I love this. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story. And I'm really excited about this podcast for you. So
thank you, my bro.
Yeah.
Ready, break.
All right, break.